Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of both the reorganizational and the regular meetings?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
We have a consent agenda. I won't read the specifics for the business operations. We do have a curriculum development proposal to fund 12 hours of expenditure for Harry Jarko to put together a great curriculum development project for his current events course that he's going to be teaching next year. Can I have a motion to approve that? Any discussion?
Wait, so are we doing the whole consent agenda?
We're doing the whole consent
Oh,
agenda.
so that's part of it,
So
okay.
any discussion?
No.
Yeah, that's 4.1 part of the
Okay.
consent agenda. I just want to say I wish I were in that class.
I wish you
I mean,
were
I
in
just
class, too.
sounded like, it sounds like such a great class. What fun you're gonna have.
I hope so. Yeah.
I hope so too. so.
Couldn't ask for more during an election.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't get discussion in
Can you
this one.
Skype?
Didn't mean to open that up so much, but I really got excited when I read
I'll
it.
put that on.
Okay, so that's,
YouTube channel.
we did all in favor, right?
Yeah, Terry, but
Okay.
one thing quickly,
Sure.
with the tax levy.
Yeah,
As of this afternoon, the equalization rates that we are provided through the Office of Real Property Services are still tentative.
okay,
There is a slight chance that those could change. The final, based on what the assessor turns into the state, that those equalization rates could change. If that's the case, we're gonna have to have a special board meeting to reset the tax levy. So
okay,
the levy that's presented here is based on the tentative equalization rates. If the final are the same as the tentative, then there's no issue, this is fine.
Is there a date that we have to do that by? Could we do that at our board retreat if
No,
if indeed
No,
that
we start
happens?
collecting September 1.
Okay, so if we did it on the 30th, we'd be,
No, wouldn't be enough time.
okay, we'd be enough time. Okay, well,
So I mean, typically the tentative rates are the same as what the final are. Anything
okay,
wacky, so I just want to throw that out there.
thanks, Matt. Board meetings are meetings in public, but they're not public meetings. However, the board does provide 2 opportunities for anyone who wants to participate or address the board. We will reserve the right to limit the amount of time. Anybody who wants to address the board, please come up and state your name, and so you can get on camera and use the microphone, so anyone that's watching the great YouTube video at home can see you. If you have questions, please direct your questions to the board and not to administrators. If we can give you information that you need tonight, we will, but we may reserve that until a later date when we have more details. If you have anything sensitive you want to talk about or anything that requires a long, lengthy discussion, you're welcome to also use our email, boe@hamiltoncentral.org. So this is our first opportunity for public participation. Okay, no takers. Under new business, we have several personnel items. Can I have a motion to accept the resignation of Anna Tavi as music teacher effective August 17th with sincere appreciation for the services rendered to the district?
No.
I knew that was going to happen.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Don't write that down.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Can I have a motion to accept the resignation of Joseph Landry as math teacher effective August 31st and as boys varsity soccer coach effective August 9th with sincere appreciation for services rendered to the district? All in favor?
Aye.
We have several appointments. I have a motion to approve the appointment of Andrea Cass as probationary cook manager effective August 1st at a salary of $30,000 as recommended by the business manager and the superintendent.
I'm doing each one, okay.
Mhm.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a motion to approve the appointment of Christina Forlini Walker as probationary .9 FTE teacher aide effective September 1st at step 1 of the salary schedule as recommended by the Director of Pupil Personnel Services and the Superintendent.
I'll move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. A motion to approve the appointment of Tracy Cook as probationary .5 FTE music teacher at step 1 of the salary schedule effective September 1st as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to approve the appointment of Andrea Khan as probationary part-time .5 FTE art teacher at step 1 of the salary schedule effective September 1st as recommended by the secondary principal and superintendent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to approve 5 additional summer days for Fred Reagan as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion?
What are the 5 days for?
Yeah, so as we continue to move forward, there's still more pieces of work that needs to be done during the special education department, including putting together putting the finishing touches on RTI. We did some more hiring over the summer, and Mr. Bragan can speak a little bit more to why we asked him to come.
We also have, I think a week ago Thursday were the 10 days. We also have VR and PD reports that have to be done. Those are state ed submissions. For example, today I worked on the VR 13, which is the preschool report. In fact, we found errors, so had to go in and correct them. So there's a few reports that still need to be done, as well as the RTI, trying to finish that off.
All in favor? A motion to appoint the following extracurricular, co-curricular advisor positions for 2016-2017 contingent upon sufficient student participation. And I'm not going to read the whole list. It's in board docs.
There's just one thing,
Sure.
it's minor, but the chess club is listed twice.
Okay.
We have the chess club.
Hey, maybe we have enough kids then.
Probably don't need to have 2 chess clubs.
We need two. Can I-
And there's been talk, I don't know if it's sure or not, but about the yearbook, is that gonna become a club again, or is it staying a class?
Do you know?
Right now, there hasn't been a determination. Last year, it was embedded. In the past, it was an extracurricular. It's now embedded as a class. Right now, we're having issues with the schedule as far as assigning a teacher or having a teacher do the yearbook. So we're still in the discussion stages right now, so I can't give you a definitive answer, honestly.
So we'll approve that later. Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
We have a sub-list, recommended, can I have a motion to approve Andrea Kine as a substitute teacher as recommended by the secondary principal and the superintendent?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the following part-time positions for the 2016-17 school year? Since these staff members will continue to be employed in this part-time capacity, they require annual appointments. And there's a list in board docs, and I won't read the whole list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special education and preschool special education?
Second.
Any discussion would happen in exec session, so all in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to
Could I just
accept?
ask, I mean,
Mhm.
we said any discussion would happen in closed session, but then we vote to approve it?
No, this is a different report. This report is in board docs and it's about specific students. And so we can't discuss specific students in an open meeting. The second, 6.3, which is the one you're asking about, that's the end of the year report, and that's more of a general report, so that's the next thing on the agenda.
I guess I'm just asking kind of point of order, if we're approving something without being able to discuss it, wouldn't that vote
We're not
take place?
approving, they're two separate reports.
Right.
But we're
Okay.
approving six.
We're approving the first one, and then we're gonna be talking maybe about the second one. They're two different reports.
Which one needs to be done in closed session?
If anybody had a question or wanted to have a discussion, then you would call that now, and we would move the vote until after executive session.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the end-of-year CSE report for the 2015-16 school year?
I'll move.
I'll second. I got the look I was supposed to say.
Anybody, come on. Is there any discussion, or are there any questions?
I thought this was extremely helpful.
This is gonna be a great resource for all of us going through. I did have a couple of, I did have one question about a number that I didn't understand, and that was, these pages aren't numbered, but it was table 2, number of students at HCS by program placement. And if you look at the second page of that report, it goes from high school, there just seems to be a big difference between the last two columns in the out of district. Is that just because of the cohort?
High school 612,
Yeah. high school
18 to
six-
16?
11 to 20. Yeah, it's 18 to 16.
Oh, that's the high school, that's 6 through 12. You had a
Okay.
decrease in the number of students within that program that's here
Okay.
in district. And the 11 to 20 were out of district. There was an increase there. So you had a couple of students that were attending BOCES,
Okay,
some students there.
okay, thank you. Any other questions about that report? All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to approve a $250 one-time stipend to the following teachers who will be teaching dual enrollment courses as recommended by the superintendent, and that's Brian Rose, Susie Peach, Joanna Bozzard, Lauren Hyman.
I'll move.
All in favor? A motion to accept the following monetary donations with sincere appreciation and to increase the budget by these amounts. We had $6,339.78 from the Emerald Foundation and $11,400 from the McNeese Foundation.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Also, a motion to approve to donate our discarded books to the Hamilton Public Library.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have a, and just for the new people, the two new board members, when we're taking a look at a policy, usually we have a first read, and that time we just go through and we read it really carefully. We then have a second read, and in the time between then, anybody who thinks there should be a change in that policy can do research and can talk to our policy consultant now at BOCES to find out if the change that they're going to suggest is legal. Then they can write language to suggest a change. We don't have a policy committee. I think it'd be a good idea if we did have a policy committee, because it just makes that process a lot more efficient. We can read this policy as many times as we need to read it in order to get it right, but I'm wondering if anybody would like to take this one on, just to read it carefully and do the research and contact BOCES.
Fine with me.
Paul wants to? Okay. So this is the first read, there's no action on this tonight, and I can help you with getting a sample policy from NISBA, and that's really pretty helpful too, so thank you very much. And we are going to be talking about the beginning of a strategic planning initiative, and Dr. Alston is going to do a little presentation about that.
Sure. So what I want to do is show a video for everyone, and then I'll sit down and then we'll talk a little bit.
Can you see my moves so you can see?
So at our last meeting, we discussed, thank you, we discussed the myriad of factors that the school district is facing. I can go through them at the end because they're sitting down over there. But what we wanted to do is talk about, like, how do we prioritize what it is we want to do? The other thing is, how do you handle situations that, in some instances, touch the nerve of people's hearts and souls, and also is part of a change dynamic, some of which is imposed, some of it we're doing to be strategic and to grow the organization. So rather than assume everyone is on the same page on what a strategic plan is, what I thought would be good and what will be on the website for everyone who's not here is to just give an overview of a strategic plan and play that out here. In advance, I just want to say that some of the language that this particular person uses is corporate specific. Obviously, that's not the case. We are, in fact, a not-for-profit. But I want you to just think conceptually in terms of how this could play out, or at least the overview of a strategic plan.
Collective thinking to determine
All right, so
where we want to
start.
be. Hi, my name is Erica Olson with M3 Planning. Today I'm going to provide an overview of the strategic planning process. And instead of going through a long, boring list of definitions, we're going to do it with an illustration. So let's get started. We always start with our mission statement, and I have this illustrated as a box because a good mission statement helps clarify what's in and what's out, and most importantly, answers the question why we exist as an organization. Once you've answered that, you then jump to determining where you are now. And we figure out where we are now by looking at data, both externally and internally. What's going on in your industry, in your environment, with your competitors, with your customers? What is your staff saying about what's working and what's not working? What are your partners saying about what they like and what they don't like? And we collect all that information and we synthesize it into our handy little strategic thinking tool called a SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Once we have that identified, we use that information as well as our collective thinking to determine where we want to be in the future. Now, you may already have a vision, and that vision may just be updated based on the market information that you just collected, and maybe you're refreshing it. But what's important about the vision is it answers the question where are we going, and it's really clear to everybody in the organization. Because if it's not clear, you can't create a plan from where we are today to where we want to be in the future. So once you've clarified your vision, your job in your planning process is to draw the most direct line or the clearest path from where we are today to where we want to be. And we start by articulating our organization-wide strategies, or those things that are our guardrails to keep us on a straight path. Once we have those identified, we then articulate our long-term strategic objectives. Now, there are all kinds of different planning terms. I'm going to call these long-term strategic objectives to articulate those things that provide a high-level view of items between where we are today and that future state, broken down in a balanced way: financial, customer, operational excellence, and people. Less than 7 of these is always good. Once we have clear long-term strategic objectives, we then identify our short-term goals. I'm defining goals using our acronym SMART: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. It's fabulous to have articulated goals that go out multiple years. You can't always do that, but if you can in your planning process, that helps you have a longer-term horizon. So you have goals that are with milestones that are due in year 1, year 2, year 3. You may even go past that for this purpose, let's just say 3 years. For your first year, or the year current that you're in, you're going to want to break that down into specific goals at the functional or department level, and then at the individual level. So you want to cascade goals, your corporate goals, to departments and then individual contributors. So once you have all of these pieces put together, you have more than likely a really good plan. But no plan is complete if you don't talk about how you're going to execute it. So let's talk about a couple key items. Everybody in your organizational structure needs to have a clear action plan. He or she needs to know their piece of the overall plan and what they're responsible for the year or for the quarter. You need to identify when you're going to come together to talk about your strategy and make adjustments and adaptations. Perhaps you'll have quarterly strategy reviews, and these might be the months that you might have them. Don't leave your offsite without identifying those dates. Recommend that. Pick a system to track your progress. So when you come into these meetings with your goals, everybody has the same documentation and language to talk about how you're doing against your plan. And with that, that's your complete strategic planning process.
So, I thought it was a good idea to let everyone get a look at least the overview, and so that the public could be kind of clear on the why and what it is conceptually. It would be a little different for public schools, but I think that given all of the things that we are faced with, that is something that would make the most sense in terms of consensus, when you have so many different constituents in the room, including community partners, and that's what I have to say at this point. Did I leave a piece of paper up there? Yeah. Thanks. May I please? Thank you. That's it.
So, do you have anything you want to add?
So I think it's a good idea to certainly consider this because it does tend to help you become more focused, and it keeps you on track and not, veer off into directions that are not guided by this plan. I'd be interested to hear how it's worked in the other schools and the area schools that have been through it, and if they find that it's been helpful and successful in not only keeping them on a path, but building relationships and creating some synergies between all the different stakeholders and groups.
Sure. So this came up, the concept came up at a superintendent's meeting. And one of the things that I know is that very few school districts go through this process. Very few, let me say that your really premium organizations tend to go through this, no matter what the size is. And what happened was we were talking about some of the issues, and one superintendent, a Central New York superintendent, was telling about the level of challenges that his district had been going through, and that they had gotten a strategic plan, and how it automatically shifted the conversation and the noise to, they could always say, well, this is what was agreed on by consensus. And this is what, when we went through our core values, this is what we believe by consensus. And this is the plan to get us from here to there. And so for the two Central New York superintendents who I've talked to on this matter, and then I started reaching out to my other people, the few that have it, because it is a commitment, it is resources, and it is time, and it is a matter of superintendents and some of the leadership team kind of giving up control, because consensus is consensus. What can you live with and go along with? And so that's been my experience thus far.
Yeah, I think too many times, it's when you go through the process, and it is lengthy and formal, and it does take a lot of time, you don't want to shelve it at the end of the day, like you just have this great document that you just go, oh, that sounds great, and you put it to the side, and you're not using it as a living, breathing document that guides your path. So I I just wanna make sure that we would be using it in that fashion and not just going through the exercise. And I don't think that we would be, but I just, for clarity, I wanna make sure that that's something we really continue to keep center and focused, that it's just not an exercise.
Right. I think in a community this size, I would strongly suggest, if we went down this road, which I'm not ready to make a recommendation yet, that you have two out of 5 board members on the committee. Because it also requires the board to kind of, I mean, it's a matter of consensus. And so what can we live with rather than what do we want? And you know, so for boards and superintendent, it's a different way of looking at things if you weren't operating that way already. But it's also very empowering for people to be heard and to kind of get some of the things that they think are important. So certainly more to come. I've certainly been talking to different consultants who do this kind of work, and you know, I probably, if things keep going the way they are, should have a recommendation. I guess I want to reach out to some more partners in this in terms of input, but that's the direction that we're headed in.
Thank you. Anybody, any more questions? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the 2015-16 APPR certification and submit to SED as recommended by the superintendent?
I'll move.
Second?
I wanted to just clarify something for everyone.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so this APPR is not the new APPR. What we have to do as a board and as superintendent is certify that we have followed the APPR plan for 15-16, that we followed it, we've done it, and now we're sending it up, and the board is acknowledging that we followed it and certified it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have an update on the Hamilton International Students Program. And I thought maybe I'd start by reviewing where we've been, where it started. Because it was a long time ago, it seems like a long time ago, and I know a lot of folks in the room weren't there when it first started. So during Diana's last year at Hamilton Central, we were still in the midst of the GBA. We still had a lot of financial woes. And at that particular time, there was one of the BOCES, Southwest Chester County BOCES, had a grant that allowed them to look at schools that already had a service designation and make a presentation to that school to try and enlist that school into this program, their particular International Students Program, which was a tuition-paying program. And so a gentleman from Southwest Chester County, I think.
Southern Westchester BOCES.
Southern Westchester BOCES, okay. He came to a board meeting. I was at that board meeting, not as a member, you were a member. I was there as a citizen, and he gave a presentation, so that was 2.5, 3 years ago maybe. And he gave a presentation about their program. Now, he looked at us, I think, for 2 reasons. He was a Colgate grad, so he knew the community, and he also, we must have come up on a list of schools that had that service designation. We had that service designation because the previous year we had an exchange student who we needed to have that designation for. So at the end of that year, the superintendent left. The board was really interested in that program at that time, as I recall. It was talked about at maybe 3 meetings in a row, and they wanted to proceed. But at the end of the year, the superintendent left, and so that was tabled for the next year. The next year we had Dr. Curtin here, and during the year that Dr. Curtin was here, we asked him, I think, 2 different times to make contact with that BOCES and to follow up a little, because we had community members and board members who wanted to keep open to the idea. So he did that, and during the year that he was here, the person who was in charge of that program left the program. It was pretty clear that we were not going to make a connection with that program. So this year, the discussion started again, and it was very clear by the time, the middle of the year rolled around, that we got feedback on Board of Education email from community members, and we got feedback from folks in the building. Most people were interested in some kind of a program like that as a way to increase diversity in the school, but wanted to be very, very cautious about looking at it as a revenue building kind of program. So it was clear that people wanted to really slow down and do it right, do a lot of research if we were going to go into a program like that. So that's kind of the little history that I know. And I think Dr. Alston's going to talk about where the steering committee is maybe, or what next steps are.
Yeah, so we have a proposal that is on the website that the board approved. Obviously, the timeline is no longer valid. So what we'd like to do now is put together a steering committee. One of the things that I learned from last year, slower is better. And so with 2 new board members coming on, I wanted to have a discussion with this new board in terms of where we're going next. And it came up a couple of times. And what I think would be ideal is to start the conversation now, put out a survey, and this says September 15th. I even think the 3rd September in the school year have these in by third week in school, which is around the week of September 23rd, to do the following. You could read this will be sent out, but I'll read it out. HCS is seeking members of our community to serve on the HCS International Scholars Steering Committee. We are looking to tap into the expertise of people with knowledge and expertise in this area while getting a broad representation of the diverse makeup of this community. The committee shall be made up of the following. Superintendent shall appoint a steering committee, and the committee shall consist of up to 2 secondary teachers, 1 elementary teacher, up to 2 secondary students and 1 elementary student, up to 3 district administrators, up to 3 community partner representatives, 1 at-large community member, and up to 3 parents of HCS students, inclusive of at least 1 potential host family. HCS Board of Education shall have up to 2, but at least 1 member on the steering committee. And this would go out to everyone in our community and be posted on the web and be announced at the various partner organizations that we are affiliated with. For example, I was at Rotary today, and I met with President Casey yesterday and Mayor. So all of that has been going on. So just so I can go through it, fill out your name, first name, last name, email address, phone number. And I'm doing this for a reason so everyone can see the way it kind of lays itself out. So while you're a parent and thinking of it now, yes or no, because we want specific representation of different groups. Grade level, secondary, elementary. You're an HCS teacher, because we need teacher representation. So let's say yes, because if you are a teacher, we would need to know, are you more elementary or secondary? Next. I'm an HCS student. Well, based on that, what would be the next question? Fred, what would be the next question?
If I'm a student, what grade level?
You got it. You win the prize. Thank you very much. So I'm elementary or secondary, right? So this person is secondary. I currently work for a community partner organization. Basically, I work for someone in the area. Yes. Who do you work for? Colgate. Next. Briefly describe your experience or expertise with international student or program design and implementation. No. Why do you want to be on it? I don't know. Submit. All this information would come in, and I think one of the reasons when I was thinking, of being a little later is to be able to have the ability to invite people and say, all right, well, if you're interested in talking about being on this committee, we can do a Q&A or coffee and tea or whatever during this time. And that is part of the slowing down process. And at the end of the day, once you have the committee together, this thing could die in committee. People could say, you know what, I've weighed the ups and the downs and no interest. Or they can say, all right, what's next? So I think that's where we are, and that would be my recommendation for next steps. Put out the survey toward the end of August, let it sit out there, everyone will be back. When I say back, there are people who are just not here. Like, teachers are not really here, some are gone, some will be back. College starts fairly soon, I don't know when, but. Right, so they'll be back soon enough, and then the whole community will be here during the month of September, and you know, we will be able to say, like, this is slow, this is open. Anyone who wanted to kind of take a look at it, to be a part of the steering committee, had a shot to do so, and then what we would need to talk about is steps to go after that. So that's my update, and I'm going to have to see.
Okay, next we have information and correspondence, and lucky administrators, we have no reports for August. So, we have a board retreat on August the 30th, and I think an agenda for that is going to be coming out.
Do we have the time for that?
4:45?
You do. 4:45 to 7, and I'm probably going to extend it a little bit, which is why I extended it up. Well, I'm going to do the memo. Send it out tomorrow.
We have correspondence from the New York Association of Agricultural Educators, and that is because Johanna Fox-Bossert was named as the New York State winner of the Outstanding Young Member Award. I want to read just one paragraph of this letter because I think it's incredible. Johanna's dedication to her students and agricultural education is evident through her work as an active FFA advisor and classroom teacher. She strives to improve the rigor and relevance of this program through involvements in statewide professional development activities and participation in state and national student leadership agricultural events. Through Joanna's leadership and service, she will continue to have a profound impact on the New York FFA organization, NYAAE, her peers, her students, and your agricultural and school community. The candidate pool for this award was exceptional, and congratulations to your school and administration for having your agricultural educators selected. So she's wonderful, and we're very proud of her. So.
She was on, excuse me, the front page of yesterday's paper, and that was a nice surprise as well for that winning that award.
Okay, next we have discussion of the audit report.
Yeah, Matt, you take the lead on.
Sure. We received our final report from the Office of the State Controller for an audit of our school lunch fund that took place over the course of about 8 weeks over the winter. Nothing really that we didn't expect. You know, each year in October when we go through our audited financials, you know, this is something that's on the radar and something that's recommended to the board and the administration to keep an eye on. As we tend to do here when it comes to declining enrollment participation, a need for less staffing, and we were sort of waiting to make a change through attrition. We know that our cafeteria has not sustained itself for years. When I say we, I mean the Board of Education, in collaboration with the administration, has chosen to continue to move forward with the same levels of staffing and basically the same product that we're putting out to our kids. If you look over the last few years, the cost of labor has increased exponentially compared to our ability to generate revenue in the cafeteria. It's basically what we charge for lunches. Short of charging $5 or $6 for lunch to make that up, it's just impossible. In which case you wouldn't sell any lunches anyway. Our free and reduced lunch numbers have increased, so we do have additional money coming in from the federal government, the state government, but it's not enough to cover the increasing costs, primarily in labor, but also in expenses. It's no different than us at the grocery store. So they did an analysis of meals per labor hour. That's kind of the standard that the Office of the Comptroller uses. Basically, the number of meals you're producing based on how much labor you employ. And we're found to be below industry standard. One of the things that I felt was very important to point out is this doesn't take into account at all the type of product you put into kids. So really, they will look at it in terms of two types of meals. There's a conventional method and a convenient method. We are a conventional method. I would think that we're on one end of the spectrum of conventional method, meaning we're preparing meals from scratch. Essentially. The convenience method is you're buying food, heating it up, and putting it out there. So again, the preference of this board and this community is to keep doing what we've done under the leadership of our cook manager to date. As far as corrective action and the way this works, we had a chance to provide a response that was in there. We didn't have any disagreements with what they found. It was fine by us. We have to provide corrective action within 90 days. Earlier tonight, you took action and you appointed Andrea Cass as the new cook manager. She's moving into Randy's position, and we're not filling her position with another full-time equivalent. So basically, we're reducing our cafeteria staff by one full-time equivalent, which will have a significant impact on the cost of labor in the cafeteria. So it's really quite simple, our course of action and our response of what we're doing. Just how much, I have projections based on what I know people were getting paid and what they're going to be paid, and what we know health insurance will go up. But still, a lot of it depends on participation. As a small district, we have other things that are different than other smaller districts. We have a somewhat open campus where kids can leave for lunch a couple days a week. Smaller comparable districts don't have that. You're not going to see any of that in the report. We know that, we share that. But we're pretty confident that just this one change is going to put a serious dent moving forward. And probably a year from now at this point, we'll be assessing the overall performance, if you will, of the cafeteria, both financially and production-wise, and we'll have to make some decisions along the way. But in the immediately, we're going to see a change just with decreasing staffing.
And we have to have a report in by 90 days, so.
90 days from issuance of this report,
Okay.
so it'll be a brief response. Again, it's.
And our meals per labor hour will look better, no matter. Are you going to calculate that, or are you just going to?
Yeah, we can. They recommend us keep, but really, if our participation remains the same, we have one less body that we're employing. So yes, absolutely, it's going to go up. So, and we've seen a slow decline in our participation. Not really enough to make any drastic changes, but we've also gone through changes in nutritional standards and requirements. So. We saw a direct correlation in our participation once that happened. So we're plugging along.
Yeah.
We're going to attempt to start school. Randy's not here. Randy, everybody's going to miss Randy, but our hope is to, as far as the product and what we're putting out, to not miss a beat. So. Yeah.
Is this the only audit report we're expecting this summer?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So the audit that was referred to at least a couple board meetings before about teachers, what happened with that?
There was.
I'll do it. So the auditor can give you an overview, which is a conversation, and he can issue a report or an opinion, which is public. The overview was that, which was a conversation that he had with the district clerk and the business manager and myself. It was that we needed to take a look at the scheduling of teachers because it didn't appear to add up to him by his understanding of going through districts and contracts. So that is something that we are going to take a look at this year and put together a scheduling committee at the secondary level. And so at some point at a board meeting, that exact question was asked, and I clarified that an overview is different than an opinion. And in auditor's talk, when you're talking about the state controller's office. So we'll have to look at it.
And as far as the actual process, when they come in, they're here for, not physically, but it's 8 to 12 weeks of in and out. You don't know when they're going to show up, but every review begins with a look at internal controls. Everything from the handling of cash to bus replacement schedules. And
Share this story about the busing out front. And
yeah, the one day I was walking out at 2:45 to the buses, and the auditor said, "Do you have a bus replacement plan?" I said, "Yeah, we have very detailed reports." And he said, "Looks like you have some old buses." And I said to him, I said, "Well, a couple of them are substitute buses. We're sending 2 on sport trips this afternoon, and old doesn't mean it's the most costly." So just to give you an idea, they look at everything, and then they focus on one area. And in this case, for us, the report was based on school lunch financial condition. Every weekly, if you go to the OSC website, there's district reports that come out each week.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the audit process. It's just, in the process, the meetings leading up to this, the conversation was always about teacher scheduling. And then again, an audit report about school lunch seemed like a disconnect to me. It was like, we're talking about scheduling, and here's something on school lunch. So that's why I was wondering, maybe it was a different auditing report or.
No, it's the same.
They can choose what they want. Right, thank you very much.
Sure.
We had school handbooks, and hopefully you went through those, so that was there for you. And we have the superintendent's report.
Very briefly, the front fence and the lawn is it's up, and it looks, from my opinion, in my point of view, as a community member, looks amazing. So thank you to our custodial crew and Mr. Ellis and everyone who's been asking for it. But it looks quite nice, and that's done. The parking lot has been relined, and that gives it a different look. And once again, the leadership team and the custodial crew did a great job with that. Our computer service technician has began, Ms. Jen Lauscher. She's putting in a certain number of days this summer, and I believe she sent out a letter or an email to all of the teaching staff to kind of let them know her priorities and wants to hit the ground running. As I mentioned earlier, I met with President Casey at Colgate, and we had a very good conversation in terms of the relationship between Colgate and HCS, past and future. He certainly sounded very positive and supportive and understands kind of what we're trying to do. And I met with Mayor Nicoval also and spent some time with him about a variety of topics that we were talking about. Both of them, we talked about the International Student Steering Committee and the proposal and the process, and I gave them both one, and just good things to come. So that's where we're at.
Okay, we're at our second opportunity for community participation, so if you have something to say, I invite you up. Mr. Jarko.
Make believe there's a mic.
Pull it. Where's the mic?
That's a make
There's a
believe.
mic over there.
Turn that.
Speak in that direction.
I'm supposed to address the board, right?
You're addressing.
I will be brief. I think the notion of doing a strategic plan is a great idea. It's hard to argue with. We should know where we're going. And so I applaud that. I would urge you to look at every option to tap into community resources like Cove, like Upstate Institute, like the Center for Strategic Initiatives, all that entrepreneurial stuff. Given the constraints on the budget, I actually am hoping that you will try not to spend money on an outside consultant when I am quite confident that this community possesses a wealth of knowledge to guide this process, that we can do it internally without having to pay for an outside consultant.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Go ahead. Travis.
First off, thank you for the work you guys did with the cafeteria position, because I know I've been asking about that a lot. But you mentioned something that kind of struck a thought. I wasn't aware that students, I assume of high school age, are able to leave campus during lunch?
Seniors.
Seniors?
Yeah, it's a senior privilege.
Okay. I was just wondering if that's worth readdressing for a few different reasons. I know that would be a popularity hit.
A big one.
You
I don't
have
know.
insurance liabilities, you're liable for the kids when they're off campus. Would it make a difference? No, but you are hurting the profit that goes into the school lunches. But also, I think one of the big things the school district deals with is an undeniable divide amongst economic structure of the students. So what you probably have happening is the kids that can't afford to go out and eat lunch, which isn't cheap in the village, are stuck staying at school, whereas the kids that come from a higher economic background are able to. And you've just created by that one policy right there, a divide. But also, at today's age, there's so much drug use and stuff, you're liable for the kids whether they leave campus or not. You can't police what they do when they leave campus. Just a thought.
Thank you.
But again, thanks for the work on the cafeteria position. I think that's a great idea.
Any questions?
Hello, I'm Lynn Holcomb, parent of 2 middle school children. But I have a couple questions. One that was already asked, or a comment about the strategic plan. Working at Colgate, I'm very used to strategic plans. Work in an office that every decision we drive is driven by a strategic plan, so I definitely support that. My question was, and this is one of just lack of knowledge, is there no current strategic plan?
Well, I'm gonna just talk as an old teacher. I mean, I feel like we've been through all these sort of, in state initiatives and in professional development, you know, so 1 year you do a mission statement in a certain way, and 2 years later that goes away and you do it again, and this is more exciting to me. I think we've got some longevity in our professional development now, since the PEDC, I'm hoping that's true, was here. And I think this is more of, I'm more hopeful that it's not gonna be that, you know, Regents Action Plan and then it goes away in 2 years.
Sure.
You know,
I mean,
so-
they're usually multi-year,
and-
you know, I totally support that. I just
Yeah,
am a
but
little
that's what-
surprised that there isn't
Well, that's what-
actually currently a
that's what
strategic plan.
tends to happen, I think, on the state level. So,
Sure.
you know, you're required to do this for this set of years. And I think the other thing that's really exciting about it is that it's gonna tap into the experts in the building.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, and that's
I think it's a
pretty
great,
wonderful.
I
So-
think it's great. It will feel busier for a while, but
But it's not that we haven't had mission, vision statements and plans, it's just that they've been imposed for the most part by the
Sure.
state, and they haven't had a long life. And if we can get something good in place that isn't set in stone, that can evolve, you know, as the building changes, I think that's gonna be so much better than what we've had in the past.
is there any look at doing an external review as part of this process? Has that already been done?
Tell me what you mean by external review.
Typically, other individuals in the industry that come in and look at policy and organizational structure and provide third-party commentary on how you're currently doing things, just as an objective lens.
I can answer for a couple of departments. I think we have had a couple of audits done this year about certain departments in the building, so yes. And we do have a policy service now. policy review is ongoing, but I think this year it's gonna be a little bit more formal. So, yeah, not like a 360, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, there's so
Where
many
everybody-
varieties, I just didn't know what actually
Yeah,
had already
we
been
haven't
done.
had anything like that, but when there's a change in leadership, it makes sense at that time. I mean, I know that it happens at Colgate and it happens at Hamilton College too, where my husband works. The new person comes in and looks carefully at some departments or, some places in the institution,
I just
and
think
that's
there's,
happened.
yeah, I think there's, in the college, small schools in a college town community
Yes.
sort of take on their own experience.
Yes.
And so I think there's benefit to looking at successes and challenges
Yes.
and other partner locations, even if they're not in central New York,
Yes.
just because I think we're in a pretty unique relationship, situation. So I just tossed that out as a question. I do have a couple other questions on the international student plan as well. The international student and the steering committee, how will the steering committee be selected? Who selects the steering committee once they apply?
It's a great question, and it's something that the board, we haven't discussed yet. So the plan says the superintendent shall appoint. However, we haven't determined what role the board will play in that yet. This is the first time we're talking about it as a board. And so, at this point, we want to collect the information, and I think I mentioned that. Then we'll have to sit down and say, how do we want to move forward? So one of the things that is important is that we have broad representation, right? And one of the reasons for creating a committee is to tap into expertise.
Sure.
And so how do you tap into expertise and have broad representation? Like anything else, it's messy. So we haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm sure we will be having discussions on how to best go about it, but.
Yeah, because I think a follow-up comment I have there is just, again, going back to being in a college town community, we have an incredible wealth of expertise of dealing with international students, on the Hill. And I wonder about targeted targeted conversations, and the requirement of, does an individual who could bring incredible expertise actually have to live in the village of Hamilton? So, I think we need to think about what that steering committee needs to represent in terms of people who understand the school and the district, but also that incredible expertise, thinking of, Nicole Simpson, director of, specific individuals, the coordinator of international recruitment in my office who speaks multiple languages, lives in has lived in a number of countries, and really understands student educational culture at a level that I think very few other individuals do.
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be important to have this be a fair process.
Right.
To bring in and have it be balanced by expertise, even if they don't bring, the residency
Right.
requirements or some of the appropriate parenting of school-age children.
There's some of the conversations that we've had over the last month were with Vice President Deacock and Joanne Borfitz, who named some of the people in Colgate who would be a tremendous resource.
Right.
The president, the mayor. So the proposal is as it is, but the conversations with people who we know can help us. The principals took 2 trips, one to the gentleman in Newcomb, thank you, who started this program 9 years ago. I went there twice, presented with him. So we've been building capacity. It's been a learning, just putting together the proposal has been a tremendous learning curve. And so now we're going to sit back and kind of reassess with this board, like, what are the next steps. But we have definitely been touching into the resources in terms of just getting the proposal together. Now the hard work starts.
Sure.
Right.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
I just want to add in response to Lynn's question for anyone else from the community who may be wondering about outside types of assessments that we've had. A few years ago, we did have a needs assessment conducted by the PBC, and I feel like there might have been a second outside group a couple years later who did the same thing. We also this year have had the focus group resource people in the building who met with stakeholders throughout the building. So we have had at least a couple in very recent memory of outside third-party representatives who've helped us identify our, I guess you could call it the SWOT, strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. I just wanted to.
Thank you.
question about where the videotape of the board meetings are located, because I tried to find the last board meeting on the webpage. I can't find them. I think they should be attached to right where the minutes are. I looked, Rick and I both looked today. They are not, if they're there, they're not easy to find.
We'll find that out.
They should be like, because it does say that they're videotaped.
Right, and I agree with you, and we'll figure it out.
Because there's a lot of things that are being discussed, and I think,
Yes,
okay.
thank you.
Just mentioning contact with that, I mean, maybe what we need to do is come up with a person or rotate it like we do with the emails, just checking it. I mean, the same thing happened when I was sitting there and said, when you click on it and you watch, you can't hear what the people are saying out there. Which just means like, we're posting these, which is good, but we need to back check and make sure that it's
That's a
actually working.
once-a-month thing too, and the person who's checking emails could easily do that, so
Yeah,
it's me right now.
So,
I'll
maybe
pass.
we just put that on the schedule, the agenda, whoever's doing the email check and make sure these
Yeah,
are working.
that's a great
because
idea.
otherwise-
I'll do that this month, so. Okay. If there is no more community participation, can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss employment of particular individuals and negotiations of the new APPR plan?
I'll second.
All in favor?